Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me here. My name's Chris. Today we have a simple little lesson about arpeggios, okay, which are something that we are going to run into eventually in our musical journey. We're going to run into these arpeggios. Now, just basic housekeeping stuff. You know what to do. If you like the video, if it helps you out, if it answers any questions for you, if it helps you with your playing, be sure to give me a thumbs up, please, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everybody who does. And check out my past videos and in the future as we go forward. Check out the other videos that I put up, and hopefully they will help you move forward in your musical journey. Okay, now back to our arpeggios. What the heck is an arpeggio? We hear about them when we get to a certain point in our musical education, when we get to a certain point in our journey, we start hearing about these arpeggios. Now, whether you know it or not, you already know what they are. Your ear knows what they are. We hear them all the time. They are in every facet of music. You hear them every time you turn on the radio, every time you hear a commercial jingle, every time you put on a piece of classical music or jazz or pop or rock, you are hearing arpeggios in some form or another. Okay, basic breakdown. When we play music, one of the key components, and as guitar players we know this very well, are chords. Okay, now as guitar players we tend to strum them. There's other ways that we play them, but a chord is when you take a bunch of notes and you play them all at the same time. Right? On piano, it's, you know, when you're pushing down a bunch of notes at the same time. That's when we're playing a chord. Now, what is an arpeggio? It's when we take the notes that that chord is made out of and we play them individually one at a time in a melodic form and not as a great big rhythmic thing, not all at once. Okay, so if we take arpeggios and we want to play them one at a time, there's a bunch of different ways to do that on the guitar. Now, I'm going to show you one way. This is not the only way, believe me. There's, well, maybe not a million different ways, but there's a bunch of different ways to do it, depending on what you're after, depending on what you're going for. I'm going to show you one form that you can use up and down the neck. I'm only going to go over the two primary shapes, the two primary forms, which is a major arpeggio, which is related to a major chord, and a minor arpeggio, which is related to a minor chord, major and minor. Now, are there other ones? Of course. There's other types of chords, and so there's other types of arpeggios. There's all kinds of fanciness out there that you can get into, but just for today, let's start out simple, let's start out basic, and let's just do major and minor. And I've put it into just a little study piece that you can work on. It's quite simple. It's not a work of genius or anything on my part, believe me. But study pieces aren't really meant to be. They're just there to help us work on our technique. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this in the key of D major. Okay, now that means that the first arpeggio that we're going to play involves the notes that make up a D major chord. Okay, but I'm not going to play them down here. This is where I would play it if I was playing chords. All right, I'm going to find my D note. That's the first note of that chord. And that D, I'm going to find it on string 5, fret 5, and I'm going to play that with my pinky finger. Okay, so that's my first note. String 5, fret 5, that's a D. Hopefully it sounds the same as your open D string. Okay, that's how you can match it and know that you're in tune with yourself. Okay, so that's my first note. I'm going to down pick it. My third finger is going to step directly back to the 4th string, 4th fret. There's an F sharp. That's the next note of the chord. D, F sharp. Okay, hopefully you're with me. Now my first finger needs to grab an A. That's the 3rd note that makes up the chord. My A, I step back to the 3rd string, so one more string, 2nd fret. Those are the 3 notes that make up a D chord. D, F sharp, A. Okay, the first note, that's what we call the root or the first. The next note is what we call the third. And the next note is what we call the fifth. My next note that I'm going to add is another D. So if I were to keep on playing, I could repeat that pattern, okay? But I'm not going to. I'm just going to bookend this arpeggio between two D notes. D, F sharp, A, and D. Okay, there's my major arpeggio. And that's how I would play it all the way up and all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6-note pattern. And I would come back and sit down on that root note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That might be one way that I would count through that. Okay. Now, you probably recognize the sound of this. It's like an opera singer warming up. Me, 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 me. Same thing. That's an arpeggio. They're super important. They're in everything. Now, that's the major arpeggio. Let's look at the minor arpeggio. For that, we're going to move from D. We're going to go one note up our D scale to E, 7th fret. Easy. Now, the pattern is going to be very similar. I start out with my first note on my pinky, but instead of stepping back this time with the third finger, that third note is going to drop a fret. So for the minor arpeggio, the difference is I play my root note, and then that second note that I play is going to be 1 fret lower. Then my first finger steps back, just like it did with the major, and I cap it off with another E, just like I did in the major arpeggio, the same shape. Okay, hopefully this is making sense. So if I go back to my major, and then I'm going to go up to minor. Okay, we're all good. The next note in the scale, from E, we go up another whole step, 2 frets, to F sharp, and it's minor. Well, I'm going to apply the same minor shape to it. My second finger grabs 7th fret, first finger grabs 6th fret, middle finger grabs 7th fret, and back down. Next fret, half step, 10th fret, G, major. Third finger comes back into the game. There's our major arpeggio. Then we're going to go up to A. Now this isn't all the way through the scale, it's only to A. D, E, F sharp, G, A. That's only 5 notes up in the scale, but that's as far as we're going to go for today, because for acoustic players especially, it's tricky to get past this point. Okay, so I'm thinking about you. There's our major arpeggio. 12th fret, 11th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, come back down. Okay, those are the ones that we're going to look at for today. Okay, now here is a way that I've come up with that you can practice this. Okay, we're going to go all the way back to D. We're going to do the major arpeggio, 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to come back and grab this root note. 1, 2, 3 for 3 beats, and then I'm actually going to form my little chord that's on the top end of this arpeggio. 4th fret on string 4, 2nd fret on string 3, 3rd fret on string 2. That shape, that makes a little major chord. That's an alternative way of playing our D chord. We've got this, and I'm going to give it a little strum. Okay, so if I play that through uninterrupted, now we're going to go up to E, 7th fret, minor. 7th fret, next string, 5th fret, 4th fret, 5th, 4th, 5th, 7th. Now my chord shape's going to look a little different. It's going to be this guy. Notes from the arpeggio. 5, 4, 5 on strings 4, 3, and 2. Okay, it's a great little chord shape. We're going to do exactly the same thing on F sharp at the 9th fret. 10th fret, G. This one's major. So we bring that 3rd finger back in. 3rd finger. And then we have this shape again. 3, 1, 2. Oops, I got an open string ringing there. Okay. Now, at the 12th fret, which is A, it's major as well. I only go that far. Then I'm going to dive down with my pinky, grab 10th fret, play the G major arpeggio, and stop. And then I'm going to come down to 9th fret, which is minor, and I'm only going to play the first 3 notes. I'm going to come down to E, 7th fret, minor, first 3 notes. Down to 5th fret, back to where we started. And I'm going to finish on that high D note, and that's going to cap the whole thing off. Here's how it's going to sound if I play through it all together. Boom, done. Hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section underneath the video. And if you have any requests for other ideas that you'd like me to pursue, or you feel like you need an explanation for, let me know. Leave the comments and I'll see what I can do about it. Okay, cheers.